The Phoenix Suns are off and rolling as they are off to a hot start to begin the season, capping off with yet another victory over the Philadelphia 76ers last night. And the Phoenix Suns are starting to catch the eye of the rest of the NBA, moving up in the power rankings. We're going to talk about that and just the kind of impact that new head coach Mike Budenholzer is having on this team right here on Suns Digest. My name is CJ Pierre. Thanks for joining us, y'all. We appreciate all the love and support. We are going to get into how the Suns are faring 2 weeks into the NBA season. Before we get into that, we noticed that about 81% of you guys are watching our videos, and we appreciate that. But you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet. You want to make sure you keep up to date with all the latest Suns news and updates. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing that we're going to have cooking up for you guys. Now, we are going to get into what happened last night with the Phoenix Suns coming back and closing out the Philadelphia 76ers home. It was yet another really great performance from some of the Suns' star players. Some of the Suns' role players stepped up well, once again showing the depth that this team actually has that a lot of us were really hoping that we were going to be able to see based off what we saw last year. The Suns coming back at a point in time, they were down almost 10 points late in the fourth quarter, but thanks to the shrewd moves of some of the Suns' star players, they were able to come back and close out the 76ers with a 118-116 victory. When we take a look at the stats in this game, the Phoenix Suns offensively having one of their better performances, shooting 51% from the field. Struggled a little bit from 3 point range, only hitting 11 out of 32. That's 34.4% from 3 point range. They did out rebound the Philadelphia 76ers, who were without Joel Embiid. It was Paul George's first game back, so that was another hill they had to tackle along with Tyrese Maxey as well. But the Phoenix Suns were able to continue their strong start to the season in this game. We take a look at the box score now. Kevin Durant led the way with 35 points. He hit that clutch runner down the stretch that put the Phoenix Suns up, and the Suns never looked back after that. And you take a look at what the other guys did, and Yusuf Nurkic having one of his better games, 15 and 15. It was a plus 16 when he was on the court as well. And then Bradley Beal, Devin Booker also in double figures. And then if you look at the bench there, once again, showing that depth, like I mentioned before, Royce O'Neal, another strong game, 15 points off the bench, 5 rebounds as well. Grayson Allen really honing in to this six-man role as well, getting 14 points himself. So the Phoenix Suns taking out the Philadelphia 76ers, continuing to improve their record, and they have been rising in the eyes of many people in the NBA as the Suns are rising. When I say rising, that means they are rising in the NBA power rankings. Last week, the Suns, kind of not necessarily what you would expect, especially after a team that started 2-1. Now they went over the course of this last week, winning all of their games, not losing, and they are on a nice little winning streak, and that leads to a rise in the rankings. Last week, they were ranked seventh. Now they are ranked fourth heading into the beginning of this week, and that ranking should rise if they are able to continue on the trajectory that they are on. If we take a look at their offensive rating numbers, they're 16th in the league. That's a little down from what we expected. Defensively is the real surprise here. Rated sixth in the league in defensive rating. Their net rating is eighth, with pace of play at 16th. Just some stats there on the Phoenix Suns this upcoming year. Just some takeaways from NBA.com and their power rankings. They really looked like the Suns were putting last season's fourth quarter issues behind them. They came back from 7 down in the fourth to beat the Lakers on Monday, getting 10 straight points from Kevin Durant, and completed another big comeback against the Clippers with a 34-26 fourth quarter. And then also last night with that comeback against the 76ers. Then they're also mentioning that Booker assist against the Clippers was to Royce O'Neal, who continues to be a closer for the Suns. Phoenix is 4-0 in games that are within 5 points in the last 5 minutes. Sometimes that's in place of Yusuf Nurkic, though the numbers have been great, plus 28 per 100 possessions and 88 total minutes with Durant and O'Neal on the floor with either Nurkic or Mason Plumlee. So Royce O'Neal really showing his worth and showing why the Suns really made it a priority to make sure they brought him back on to this team. Now, if we take a look at where the Suns stack up against the rest of the league, looking at FanDuel Sportsbooks, NBA Finals odds, NBA championship winner odds, the Suns climbing up a bit. Now they are at plus 1,500, tied with the Denver Nuggets. Previously, they were behind the Denver Nuggets in that ranking, still behind Western Conference powerhouses Oklahoma City Thunder, Dallas Mavericks, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. As you can see, the Boston Celtics have the best odds to win it all. But if we take a look at the Western Conference, again, like I said, Phoenix Suns moving up now, tied with Denver Nuggets for the fourth best odds to win the West at plus 700. Again, behind Oklahoma City, Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Dallas Mavericks. Then there's the Los Angeles Lakers, Golden State Warriors, Memphis Grizzlies with a healthy John Morant, the Sacramento Kings with DeMar DeRozan, and the New Orleans Pelicans, as long as Zion Williamson can stay healthy there. Those are kind of the top contenders in the Western Conference. Kind of what you would expect, usual suspects, the teams that we thought that we would see battling out for those 10 spots if you include the playoffs and the play-in tournament. There's also teams lurking like the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama that teams are going to have to, go through. Again, the West is a gauntlet and the Suns look to be prepared. Right now, though, we're going to take a look at some MVP odds and see where some of the Suns star players are stacking up. Now, this is just a look at some of the top players right now. The favorite for MVP, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Nikola Jokic, Anthony Edwards, the top five. But a little further down, you'll see creeping up is Kevin Durant at plus 3,500. Devin Booker is at plus 7,500. Both of those guys are, really having different seasons. Kevin Durant really showing out, being Kevin Durant things. Devin Booker a little bit under what we had expected. If we take a look at Kevin Durant's stats so far this season, he's averaging 27 points per game with 6 rebounds per game and 3.4 assists. He's shooting 43% from 3-point range and shooting 54% from the field in general. Kevin Durant just picking up right where he left off last year. He is playing great, really showing that he is still a top 10 player in the NBA, showing that he is one of the better players on this Suns team. Now, if we take a look at what Devin Booker has been doing, he is averaging 24 points per game. He's had some big games, but he's kind of been a little bit more up and down, a little bit inconsistent for Devin Booker to start the season. I think that's more so learning how to play with a guy like Tyus Jones and a true point guard. He's played with true point guard before in the past. Obviously, the success with Chris Paul. But Tyus Jones is a little bit different of a player than Chris Paul. Yes, they're both pass first point guards, but they operate the game in different ways. I think Devin Booker is just trying to get adjusted to that, as well as new head coach Mike Budenholzer's offense, which we will get into in a little bit here. But D Book still having a solid year, shooting 41% from the field, 35% from 3-point range. We hope that can tick up a little bit and get closer to 40% as we hit the home stretch of the first quarter of the NBA season. So we know that the Suns are doing well right now. They're 6-1, really impressive start, and that we think that is in large part to new head coach Mike Budenholzer. So we are going to take a look at the early impact of Coach Bud and seeing what he's implementing in terms of what we're seeing on the court with the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, Mike Budenholzer's calling card is offense and being that offensive guru, being able to put together systems, put star players in the best position for them to succeed. And I feel like he's having some success in that department, but there are some hiccups still along the way. Again, this is early in the season. If we just take a quick look at what the Suns overall offensive rating was last year under Frank Vogel. Offensive rating was 117.6 last season. And then this season, they have dropped. They're 114.2. Again, that's near the 20s in the NBA. Now, again, offensive rating is based on a bunch of different metrics, a bunch of different statistics in terms of how your offense flows, shot creation, the shots that you're taking, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, the Phoenix Suns are missing a lot of shots. They're missing a lot of open shots. You get a lot of guys shooting under their average, and particularly from 3-point range. And obviously, head coach Mike Budenholzer wants this team to be shooting more shots, which they are. If we take a look at the 3-point percentage, last season, they averaged 12.4 3-point makes. They averaged 32.6 3-point attempts, shooting 38% from 3-point range. If we take a look at the numbers for This season, that's what we're looking at. They are making more 3 point shots and attempting more 3 point shots, making 14.7 3 point shots per game, attempting 39 3 point shots per game, shooting at a 37% clip. Now, a lot of that is mitigated by the fact that KD is off to a hot start. He's shooting really well. Devin Booker now shooting a little lower. Bradley Beal's kind of in the middle. He's about hovering around, what he would normally be doing. But I think the expectation is that as the Suns attempt more threes, they'll make more threes. Maybe the percentage necessarily possibly goes down, but that takes out the long twos that were pretty heavily implemented or at least heavily taken in Frank Vogel's offense last season. When you just take a look at the tape when in terms of how this offense looks on a game to game basis. I think they're still ironing out the kinks. Tyus Jones is doing a pretty good job in terms of limiting his turnovers and getting guys involved. I think the real problem is that guys just aren't really hitting shots they normally would. That's I think why I think Tyus Jones' assist numbers are kind of down in terms of what we expected. I was more expecting him to be closer in the 8-9 range. Right now he's hovering between 5 and 6 assists per game. Also, the implementation of Yusuf Nurkic in the offense. Nurkic has kind of struggled with his position on the team. He's also getting less minutes than we expected, and Mike Budenholzer is opting to play a lot of small ball. That's why we see a lot of Royce O'Neal minutes and a lot of Royce O'Neal in the game. For closing situations, I don't think that's necessarily referendum on what Mike Budenholzer thinks of Yusuf Nurkic. I think that is just how he feels that the team will be at its best, and that is with a lineup that does feature Royce O'Neal in it. And I think that because of Royce Neal's ability to not only defend but rebound, I think he likes to close out games with a guy like Royce O'Neal, which means you need to get him in the flow of the game a lot sooner. And I think that is what is kind of hurting Yusuf Nurkic a little bit. He's not playing as many minutes. Now, he had a great game last night, 15 for 15, 15 and 15, 15 points, 15 rebounds last night. But I think give Yusuf Nurkic some time. He missed a lot of the preseason with an injury. So I think Yusuf Nurkic will be just fine. Another thing that we obviously have been pointed out is the usage of Ryan Dunn and his insertion into the rotation. He's earned himself a spot. He's worked on his jump shot. He's finding himself in good positions on offense. And I think Ryan Dunn has secured a spot for in the rotation for the entire season. And I would be shocked if he is moved out for any other way. And we know that because he was the guy who they pledged to start in that game that Bradley Beal missed as well. So I think great news for Ryan Dunn. Great start off to his rookie season. The last thing I want to point out in terms of what Coach Bud is doing is really doing a lot of craftsmanship and working around with his rotation. We've seen a lot of different lineup combinations, a lot of different guys playing together. Last night, Monte Morris didn't see the court, where if that was a coach's decision, that could be just based on that particular matchup with the Philadelphia 76ers. The Philadelphia 76ers like to run out a lot of big guys, even without Joel Embiid. So maybe that just wasn't a Monte Morris game, but it shows you the flexibility that Mike Budenholzer has and his trust that he's willing to play with the lineup and put different guys in. We haven't seen as much of Oso Ighodaro, really not much of Josh Okogie, Damian Lee. I expect those guys to have impacts and play roles down the line. I think the biggest question mark is the absence of Bol in any real way. I think that is something that we expected that Bol would be fighting for minutes but around that 10 to 11th guy in the rotation. But it looks like Ryan Dunn just took that spot and took it by the horns, and he's not looking like he's going to be letting it go anytime soon. It'll be interesting to see what happens as the season wanes and continues on in terms of what Mike Budenholzer decides to do with that rotation. Is he going to end up pulling some guys, giving guys rest time and starting, guys who maybe haven't had a chance to appear in some games, give them a little bit more run? We'll see what happens, down the line. But so far, so good for the Phoenix Suns. The Suns are off to a really hot start near the top of the Western Conference, and they do not look to be slowing down soon as we look forward ahead into the rest of this week. It'll be exciting to see, what the Suns are able to do and how they can keep up this hot start. But that's all the time I got for you guys here on Suns Digest. We thank you so much for joining us. You want to make sure you're keeping up to date with all the latest Suns news and updates. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think about the job Mike Budenholzer is doing? What do you think about this hot start for the Phoenix Suns as well? That's all the time I got for you guys. Like I said, my name is CJ Pierre. This has been Suns Digest, and go Phoenix Suns.